Today we're exploring a lace stitch that also has a wonderful texture. I've called it the Puffy panel lace stitch. As with many stitches on my channel, it's much easier to knit than it looks. After we knit a few rows, we'll explore the stitch structure and explore interesting variations and some project ideas. So let's get started. Amazingly, this is a 1-row repeat, so naturally reversible. Besides basic knits and purls, there are several stitches required for this stitch. Knit 2 together is a common stitch for lace knitting. It's a right-leaning decrease with this symbol. The corresponding left-leaning decrease is slip-slip knit, or SSK, with this symbol. The key is that in order for the right stitch to be on top, each stitch needs to be reoriented, and then knit through the back loop. The last stitch required for this is an increase to match the decreases. In this case, I'm using a simple yarn over. There are several variations of this stitch. The basic one is knit like this. I've cast on 14 stitches for 1 repeat plus 2 selvage stitches. I'm using a stretchier variation of the long tail cast on. You can use any cast on you want. I suggest that you use a slightly stretchy cast on, and we'll get to why in the next section. I've slipped the selvage purlwise to get a nice edge. Knit 2 together, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, yarn over, knit 2, yarn over, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, SSK, and knit the selvage. You can see from the instructions and the diagram for 1 row that it's symmetrical, so the left and right are mirrored. When you're reading your knitting, you will mirror the stitch order as well. Knit 2 together decrease on one side, SSK decrease on the other. In the next set of 4 stitches, the first half starts with a purl, and the second half ends with a purl. For each of these stitches, knit into the knit-looking stitches and purl into the purl-looking stitches, in effect, a 1-by-1 rib. The middle 4 stitches are yarn over, knit 2, and yarn over. The middle 2 stitches are knit on both sides of the fabric, creating a garter segment up the center. The yarn overs are the matching increases for the decreases on the edges. I've added a few rows so it's a bit easier to see, and I'll knit another row. Knit 2 together, continuing the knit-looking column. Purl 1 into the purl-looking stitch, knit 1 into the knit-looking stitch, purl 1, and knit 1 into the yarn over from the previous row. Don't forget the yarn over. Knit 2 in the middle, and don't forget the yarn over. Knit 1 into the yarn over from the previous row, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and SSK, continuing the knit-looking column. And knit the selvage. After a few more rows, it looks like this. You can see that the top and bottom edges of the fabric are not straight. This is due to the separation of the decreases on each edge and the increases in the middle. In effect, it causes all the stitches between them to lean and travel from the inside to the outside. Instead of being oriented straight up, the stitches grow from the middle and are decreased away on each side. The orientation of the stitches and the impact on the shape of the fabric is typical for stitch patterns where the increases and decreases are separated, even for just a few stitches. Because of the wave of the edges, the length of the edge is longer than the width of the fabric. So it's important to use a bit of a stretchy cast on and cast off like I've done, or even a ribbed cast on if you like. I've named this stitch the Puffy Panel Lace Stitch because the repeat looks like vertical panels. Here's an example with 3 repeats. I find it changes the look quite a bit. For this swatch, I have not put any stitches between the panels. There are lots of options here, which is what we'll talk about next. Many variations can be made to this stitch for different effects. I've made swatches for a few of them, especially my favorite one, which I'll save for the end. For this swatch, I could have put a garter segment between the panels, or I could have made the segment in the middle of the panel bigger, or even with a different stitch. For example, here's a small swatch with a middle segment of 3-stitch moss alternating knits and purls. This variation maintains the 1-row repeat aspect of the stitch pattern. Check out my video on moss stitch, linked in the description below for more details on why I chose 3 stitches. Another alternative is to make the whole panel wider or narrower. The basic pattern has 4 stitches of 1x1 rib on each side of the middle. This can be increased to 6 or even 8, which will deepen the waves along the edges. In order to maintain the 1x1 rib effect, it should be a multiple of 2 on each side, so 4 stitches added to the cast on multiple. For this swatch, I have decreased the number to 2. It's a bit trickier to knit because I have also changed the increase from a yarn over to a 3-in-1 increase by purling, knitting, and purling into the middle stitch. I found that the lines made by the yarn over overwhelmed the pattern a bit. Rather than yarn over for the increase, using a make one by knitting into the yarn between the stitches will also shorten the lines. Let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in a video on increases and decreases for reversible projects. My favorite variation is to replace the middle garter segment with a slip stitch rib. The slip stitch rib video is also linked in the description. For this swatch, I have put a slip stitch rib between the panels as well. The slip stitch rib is a 2-stitch combination stitch where the first stitch of the pair is knit and the second is slipped on each side of the fabric. This variation on the Puffy Panel Lace Stitch is also a 1-row repeat. The texture of this stitch is cushy and springy. Also because of the naturally decorative edge, it makes lovely reversible projects, such as this long scarf. This stitch would also make a wonderful throw or blanket, with the panel repeated for the width and the wavy edge working well for a blanket. If you decide to add an edge, make sure to use one with increases and decreases in the same places, or you will get puckering and gaping. You can put a stitch marker between the panels to help you read your knitting. I highly recommend making a swatch of your project first, including the cast on and cast off edges, to ensure that it works with the yarn and the stitch. For example, in this swatch, I learned that I should cast off these 2 stitches together rather than one at a time to make the cast off edge shorter at this point, and maybe even adding a yarn over at the point to make it longer. Let me know in the comments what projects you'd like to make with the Puffy Panel Lace Stitch. The next 5 videos will be the Joy of Easy series with cotton yarn. Each easy reversible project video adds new skills, including a variety of easy stitch patterns, cast on and cast offs, and easy techniques to improve your reversible projects. I'm excited to see how you use your creativity to make use of the flexibility in the project designs. So pick up your knitting and create something awesome. I'll do my best to respond to comments, and I'd love to hear about your favorite reversible knitting pattern. Also feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more awesome reversible knitting. For those of you still here, the last few years I've been working hard to find simple ways to feel better, what I call my daily well-being practices. This is not medical advice, I'm just sharing what works for me. Today's well-being practice is eating fiber foods rather than highly processed foods. Our mouths are designed for chewing, our digestive tracts for milling, and our bowels for, well, volume. Highly processed foods provide for none of this. Instead, we get soft food with few nutrients and easy metabolization into fat stores. Although we're not cows, we do require fiber for proper internal functioning of the entire digestive tract. There are lots of videos on the impact of fiber and highly processed foods on our health. They're easy to find. Have a great day.